it's the racism of Trump supporters that is really scary. I mean, NBC had a special towards the end of last week where they talked about Trump's 1970s housing racism. Even his father flat out told realtors, estate agents, we don't rent to N-word. And this whole campaign has set civil rights back 30 years or more. Dog whistle racism. I mean, he tells his supporters the election's rigged unless he wins, tells them to watch that the election's not stolen in the inner city.
Yeah, I mean, I like hearing you guys, I mean, I got to admit, after going back to the polls thing, I mean, after the Brexit thing, I was a bit wobbly.
Sorry. Well, talking about Brexit, randomly, I've just seen that the High Court has ruled. I don't know if that's come up yet. And High Court has ruled that Parliament must authorise 50. So some breaking news that has just been texted to me by some Lib Dems in London. So Parliament must trigger Brexit. Is the headline.
That will end it. That will end it all once and for all. So.
They'll appeal. What happens is they'll appeal, and then it may go to the Supreme Court, and then bizarrely it might go to the European Court, where the government will say to the European Court, "Can you give us a right to tell you to fuck off?" I mean, the whole thing is weird.
We sort of knew this was a strong possibility, and I know we've gone off topic. Sorry, but
breaking news. We break with breaking news.
Exactly. We sort of knew this was a strong possibility after the closing arguments, when the judge himself basically said, what the Attorney General has just said makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, because he was saying he was baffled by the government's argument at one point, wasn't he?
Yes, that's exactly. I think that was his actual phrase, and so it really, we sort of knew this was a strong possibility to finally have this. This is also a boost for those.
New York Times has just come across Britain must consult Parliament before opening talks to leave the EU. So that's just flashed on the screen in the midst of our podcast.
Well, that's put a spanner in the works.
It sure has,
guys.
But the other thing that is quite interesting will be whether we have to have a referendum on the final deal. And the reason I say that is during the coalition period, a law was passed which meant any constitutional change with the EU had to be voted on as a referendum. It was part of the Lib Dem coalition deal that we put in place. Now, would the Article 50 negotiations at the end, is there a legal argument to be made that when we get towards that point, that is a constitutional change with Europe that requires a legal referendum? Now that this has passed, it would not surprise me if we start to see legal cases being made in that direction, unless government chooses to try and repeal that particular law, which they of course could.
Well, we're already into the B block here, and we'll get to a break at some point in time. But this now raises all sorts of issues as I quickly scroll down
while you're scrolling, what I thought was so funny in all this, right, is one of the key planks of the levers was the primacy of the Westminster Parliament. MP should be allowed to vote. But they don't fucking want the MP to vote on this. No way, mate. No way, Jose.
It is bizarre. But this raises other questions, which, and sorry for going off script a little bit, Dennis, which is,